guys Max's models here, and I've cleaned off a little area here to work now. And now that I'm done with all the Stukas, I'm going to get back to some of the undone, half-done models that are on the table. There's like a bunch of them, 9 or 10 or 11. And the one I'm going to get started on is this 140 scale Skyraider, the one that has all the super complex landing gear and everything. I had stopped working on it because I was missing a key part, which I found while cleaning up the Tarbus. There were one or two other little pieces missing, but I don't think they were that critical. So this one, it tells you to put oil in certain spots because the things have to move. I believe it was Frankie Day actually built this a while back and got the gear to rotate, and it's got all these working parts. And, anytime you engineer a model with a plastic model working parts, whether it's as simple as the monogram SBD with the dropping bomb, the retracting gear, or even just their 109 that just had the retracting gear and the rotating prop, you really... Plastic's not the best stress-bearing thing out there, so you have to be really careful or they're going to break. And some of it was probably give it play value, but more than anything else, I think it was just a sales gimmick. But a lot of engineering went into this. It's a very complex system, and I'm going to see if I can get it to work. And so that's the project right now. I was going to pre-paint everything, but I was like, you know what? Given these parts work, I'm just going to build it, make it work in the naked plastic, if I can make it work. And then when I'm done, then I'll look into painting it. And that's what we're going to do with that. So we will talk to you guys later. We'll see how it goes. I'll take some pictures along the way, and we'll see what it gives. All right. See you in a bit. All right. So we got everything spread out, got working. The instructions are pretty complicated, but took our time and used Vaseline to put where it says lube on everything. So help reduce the friction. Now, it's not completely done here. Some of the hold down parts aren't in place. I'm just making sure that everything fits and it basically does what it's supposed to. And it did. You can see I'm trying to hold the parts down just to test the back and forth motion, and also to cycle to get make sure that Vaseline, intrudes into the joint areas and reduces the friction. And once we got that much of it done, now you can see the lockdown parts, the square parts are in place, and tested it from the outside. This is the bomb rack that moves back and forth to actually make the gear go up and down. And we're not finished with the gear. I'm just getting the, I guess you call it the torsion bar, transfer bar to work. And a little argumentative, but it worked. And then the landing gears, trunnions had to go into those rotating holes, and then the landing gears went in, and on top of the landing gear you have the sprockets. It's a pretty complex little mechanism, and I had to give it some time to harden because the minute you try to push and everything, all the glue bonds try to come undone. But once it hardened, I started playing with it, and it kind of just snaps in and out, but it does work. Although my guess is you keep cycling it, you're probably going to break it. It's not particularly robust, but it's really important to have that lubricant in there, or it's just the friction with plastic on plastic. It'll break before it'll rotate. So, but the doors didn't go up and down like they were supposed to. Also, the kneecaps that are supposed to be at the top of the landing gear, one broke and the other was missing a part. So a few parts missing on this model. So then I went for the wing, the ailerons and flaps, and they had several parts. It was all pretty complicated. And then once I got everything in place, putting the actual wings on was a real trick. A lot tougher than I expected. Partly because all the moving parts and things you have to get in place and clamp down, and this was quite the little trial. But it did finally, everything went into place, and I was able to get it done. And it was a little sense of accomplishment, I don't mind telling you. Then when that was over, the next step was start working on the tail wheel, which is and the die brakes, and it has both the belly and side die brakes, which work, and that's not quite as complex as the gear, but it's pretty complicated. You also have about a 7-part tail wheel, and that's when disaster struck. I heard the arrestor hook, which had to have some Vaseline on it so it could move, popped out of my hand. I figured, what's a arrestor hook? I'll find it pretty easy. Yeah, that did not happen the way I thought that would happen. I wound up tearing the entire office apart, that whole area of the Tarbus. It was over an hour, never found it, and finally I did the one thing I was praying I wouldn't have to do. I sifted the trash, and it still wasn't there. So we don't have a tail hook on this airplane. But on the upside, I did tidy up my workstation quite a bit. And so at least, now I have a nice clean place to work, and that was overdue. So listen, it's time for me to go out and see if I can catch a little peek at the Comet A3. So I'm going to head outside. Peak viewing time is in 1 minute, so I'm out the door. One quick little thing, though, just so we can end on a cheery note, not a lost part note. My wife and I were watching Mike and Molly, one of our favorite comedies, and it was the episode where they all wound up on top of the roof of the house singing the song Calypso by John Denver. And for those of you who remember the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau and his ship the Calypso, which is a former American-made British minesweeper. But Cousteau had a magnificent series of TV shows, and John Denver did a song about the ship called Calypso, named after, I believe, the Greek god Calypso. And, of course, being who we are and what I am, the first thing I thought of was the models. You remember they used to have, Revell did the model of the Calypso and of the PBY Catalina, which sadly Cousteau's son, Philippe Cousteau, was killed in when he was flying it and landing, I think, in Portugal. And they hit the water pretty hard, left wing separated. He was killed. Tragedy. I actually couldn't enjoy the model because it came out in like 77. He was killed in 79. Every time I saw the model, I could just think the poor guy getting killed, so I never bought any of them. But did you ever build a model of the Calypso or of the Catalina, the Cousteau Catalina? Well, that's it for tonight, guys. Take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.